I had the distinct pleasure of meeting Felice and Michael on November 7th, 2016. And I want to tell you, this whole convergence, politics, media, technology, I think the entire world, you don't have to be in journalism to understand the power of communication, the power of facts versus something that's not. At the heart and soul of the media line, at the heart and soul of the mission of Felice, at the heart and soul of the mission of Michael, it's a commitment to an honest brokering to find the truth, to work with people of all sides, to be independent, to do it as a not-for-profit, to do it in the Middle East, to work years ago in the creation of a journalism press association that brought Palestinian and Israeli journalists together in common gathering and in common cause. And Felice has spent time working professionally in Yemen with the Palestinian Authority and of course in Israel as well. And her staff, of which the media line has brilliantly served as a training ground of the highest order for people who will go on to distinguish careers in and out of journalism, whether it's in government, in business. They will serve with a background and training of integrity. And to associate the media line with integrity, I would argue, is the highest calling of compliment. And I want to say to that regard, you will hear tonight not just from extraordinary luminaries, but allow me to say with some frank prejudice, young people of the highest order who will reflect the values and concepts of what is attempted to happen now and in the future. And I will simply say, as a career person in the world of advocacy and not-for-profit, I want to advocate for the strength and continuation of the media line. May it go from strength to strength, with great thanks to the Overseas Press Club, with great thanks to all of you, with great thanks to every person who's part of a message that says we need facts more than ever. And with that, let us graciously welcome the President and Chief Executive Officer of the media line, Ms. Felice Friedson.
Well, thank you everyone, and nice to see familiar faces. I first want to take a moment, and I want to just acknowledge Deidre Depke and Patricia Krantz, who could not be with us, President and Assistant Associate Executive of the Overseas Press Club. They had some personal things they had to take care of, so they couldn't be here. Alan, where is Alan? Here you are. Thank you very much for opening this evening. And this evening is quite important. We have really true friends here who have been involved with the media line for a long time. Marvin Kalb, I can't tell you how many years we've bothered you with many a detail in terms of journalism and ethics. Peter Yarrow, a dear friend of ours, on issues which you'll learn tonight, which intertwine policy as well as media, and we'll talk about that a little later. The Sotlofs, where Stephen Sotloff, as we all know, gave his life. It was a horrific event in the history of the United States. And Stephen did spend his last few years of his life working with the media line, and we'll talk about that later. Esteemed young people, our journalists this evening, some are journalists, some aren't, who've come, who've spent time in interning in the media line and how that's impacted their lives. Thank you for being here and coming from different parts of the United States. I know you made an effort, and it was very important. And of course, Michael Friedson, who is my co-partner in crime in journalism. And I want to acknowledge as well Jack Baxter, Fran, and Barry Rubin, and Jerry Rhodes, because I'm involved in a film co-producing. These are the executive producers of a film that they're in the midst of doing. They've been all over Europe looking for moderate voices in terms of issues of terror. And the documentary is called The Last Sermon, excuse me. So I think it's a very important and timely documentary, and hopefully we'll all get a chance to see where that ends up. We just spent some time in London, and I think it was very interesting to be part of that film and interview some very key people. This evening, it's all about journalism and the demise of journalism. And frankly, folks, many of us are disgusted when we look at the media today and try to understand What is going on? I tell you that our forefathers would turn in their graves. You know, I think about Thomas Jefferson and the things that he said in terms of journalism. He'd rather give up government, he said this, than if there were not a free press. And where are we today if we don't have a press that's not just free, but a press that's reliable and responsible? It's not a one-way track in terms of journalism. It's about journalists living up to what's important and also doing their jobs well. And I hate the word bias, folks, but bottom line, it's about being complete. That's what we teach our students. It's about showing all narratives in a region that is so darn difficult, the Middle East, and that's what we cover. Journalism is my passion, to tell a story one story at a time, with context, with sources, which we don't often see today. And I know, Marvin, many, many times we talk about the importance of press and policy and how they come together and they merge. Marvin Kalb, all of you know, handpicked by Edward R. Murrow and the team many years ago in terms of what is classical journalism, how we make a dent in every one of our lives in reshaping how we see communications, how we see business, how we see technology, how we see human rights issues. We've lost something, folks. We've lost something in terms of how the public understands media, and we've lost something in terms of going into journalism school after journalism school and seeing very often that there's something missing in terms of the complete contextual story. We have now trained about 4 dozen young students, internships in Jerusalem, over a decade. Many of them are sitting in leading newsrooms. You're going to meet some of them later. Some of them have gone on to policy. Some of them are going on to business. Some are still figuring out where they're going. One young woman who we just finished training in our office just this week is going to be the editor of her school newspaper in DePauw University. And it's exciting to see where these young people start and where they end. I'm not saying it's easy, they'll tell you. Sitting in our newsroom is quite a task because we care. We want to see leadership students making a difference. So we said, how can we really reshape journalism and do it with impact? So we decided that after all these students were coming our way, how can we make a difference and turn that around? And what we created was a remote distance learning program where we called 500 universities 3 years ago and said, what if we created a leadership program where we actually had an opportunity to mentor one-on-one students with journalists like Michael Friedson and journalists that work in our bureau, whether they're in Egypt or they're sitting in Jerusalem. We even have a young woman now we're training from Ramallah who went to Birzeit University, and she said, I want to train. Well, she's training herself right now and learning the ropes. But the reality is that we had 50 universities interested in this program, and today we proudly can say, as we launch this right here at the Overseas Press Club, that we have 6 universities around the globe that have partnered with the Media Line. Our first pilot program was with Florida Atlantic University. We just came off of that now. And interesting, there were students that worked on this very, very hard, and sometimes they were very busy, tasked with other classes, and you had to find that fine line of how do you work with them remotely. And yet, you will learn this evening how some of them have risen to that occasion. They have risen past any imaginable dream and actually conquering some of the most difficult tasks that one can imagine in journalism. Living in the Middle East is not easy. It means covering Israel. It means covering the Palestinian territories. I myself was in Yemen a month before the Arab Spring, and Sonia Fry can attest to that because I spoke here with Nadia Al-Sakaf, who was an editor of the Yemen Times, who, by the way, cannot come to the United States today because of the list that we see as far as barring anyone from Yemen here today. And I'm actually writing a book with Nadia Al-Sakaf. And she said, well, how am I going to come to the United States and come speak with you? And we'll wait and see. We'll have to see. But here, we're filming this as we speak tonight, so many people will have that opportunity to see, hear, and to learn about what journalism should be.